Welcome back, guys. Today we're covering 2010 South Korean thriller movie called I Saw the Devil. The movie begins as we see a van traveling along a deserted road in snowy weather. At the stretch of the icy road, there is a stranded car with its tire punctured. Inside the car, a girl is talking with someone on the phone who happens to be her fiancé, Kim Soo. As she's killing time, the van driver in a black hoodie approaches the car and inquires about why she's here alone in the middle of the night. The girl tells him that her car tire has been flattened, so she's waiting for the tow truck. The man in black hoodie offers her a ride, but her fiancé advises her to wait for the tow truck, and she politely refuses the driver's offer. Meanwhile, her fiancé, who's an agent, advises her to wait for the tow truck, and they keep talking. Back on the road, the driver then walks towards the van and gets in the vehicle. The girl observes the driver and starts to suspect him as the van doesn't move for a long time. Due to the bad vibe, she tries to start her car, and out of nowhere, the driver breaks the car window with a hammer, grabs the girl, and starts hurting her brutally until he knocks her out. Later, he drags her, leaving a trail of blood on the snow. The next scene shows us that the girl is wrapped in a plastic bag in an abandoned warehouse. The man is beside her and chains her wrist to a post. After some time, the girl starts to develop her senses and becomes aware that the man is going to kill her, so she begs him to spare her and her unborn child's life. But the man doesn't give an ear and murders her ruthlessly into pieces. The scene then shifts to a field where a young lad finds a plastic bag. Inside the bag, there's a cut-off ear. The following night, the police begin an extensive search for the girl. The crime was so shocking it created a feeling of disarray. The girl's father, who's the chief detective, reaches the crime scene and starts grieving. Her fiancé, Agent Kim Soo, also arrives at the scene. Meanwhile, the workers find her discarded head in the lake and pull it out to quickly wrap it up in a box. As the crowd gathers, the forensic expert who's taking the box away trips, and Yoo Byung's head falls out of the box and rolls out right in front of the Agent Kim. Upon the devastating sight, he breaks down into tears. After the turmoil, her father sits in a daze, mourning over the fact that he couldn't even protect his own daughter. Afterwards, all of her beloved relatives grieve over her demise. Meanwhile, in a quest of revenge, Kim, who's an agent of the National Intelligence Service, decides to go on a vigilante hunt to kill the man who murdered his beloved wife-to-be. In order to achieve it, he takes a leave from the service. In the next scene, Kim meets his friend who's also an agent. He gives Kim a GPS tracker and tells him that if the GPS remains inside of the body of a person, his location and all the conversations can be tracked down. The next day, Kim meets with his fiancé's father. He hands over the information about serial killers fitting the killing profile to Kim and pleads with him to find the heinous man who killed his daughter. Agent Kim hunts down two possible subjects that he believed killed her fiancé and beats the shit out of them, but instantly he knows that he's beating the bush here, so he moves to a third suspect. We then see a girl helplessly standing alone at a bus stop. With the worst luck, the killer from the van passes by the stop and asks the girl if she needs a ride. She's hesitant at first, but later accepts the offer as the driver insists. The girl tries to break the ice by making small conversation, but the man takes no notice of it. Later on, the man reaches for a pipe and begins beating her over the head, and in the later scene decapitates her with a guillotine. Disguised as a life insurance representative, Agent Kim drops by the driver's parents' house and unearths the driver's identity. The killer's name is Jang, and he has a son. His mother identifies his recent picture, while his father condemns him for leaving them. Later on, Kim meets Jang's son, who informs him about his location. The scene then shifts to Jang's house, where Agent Kim discovers women's handbags, undergarments, and women's clothing, which confirms that Jang is the real perpetrator that he's looking for. As he was inspecting the house, Kim discovers the killer's slaughter room, and he abruptly bursts into tears as he sees his fiancé's engagement ring stuck between the drain pipes. We now see that the killer is a school van driver. This is absolute carnage, and it's a perfect mask for him to hide as he seems to blend in with the community. As soon as the police know about Jang's identity, they come to the school looking for him and ask one of the workers to call him. As he receives the call, the look on Jang's face reveals that he's totally doomed now, but sadly at this point, a single schoolgirl can be seen in the van. As Jang knows that he's on the verge of being caught, he impulsively decides to kill the schoolgirl. In the next scene, the schoolgirl is abducted in the van, and Jang brings her to a greenhouse and proceeds to rape and kill the girl. But as he's starting the heinous act, he's caught by Kim Soo. Jang takes out a hand scythe and comes face to face with Kim. A fight erupts between them, but it is mostly one-sided as Agent Soo is beating the crap out of him. Jang gets scared to death and tries to escape, but is prevented by Soo's spark plug kick. As they are fighting, Agent Soo wraps Jang's head with a plastic bag and whacks his face on the rock several times. Just as he's about to crush Jang's skull with the rock, he drops the stone boulder. The expression on Kim's face exhibits a desire in his eyes to squeeze the life out of this wicked killer, but he comprehends that a quick death is not enough for what he did to his lover. So, he puts down the GPS tracker deep into his throat and breaks his arm. We now see that as Jang restores his consciousness, he finds an envelope full of money beside him, and he seems pretty surprised as to why Kim left him such a big bag full of cash. The scene then turns over to the highway where Jang is with his broken arm, wandering in search of passing vehicles. In the meantime, Agent Sue is keeping a tail on him. Jang finally manages to hitch a ride from a passing cab. The taxi driver seems to have a passenger in the back, but the passenger states it's a treat to have company in these tedious rides. As he enters the car, he notices the rear passenger blatantly glaring at him, so right away he suspects something's fishy. Moreover, Jang notices something unusual that the picture on the driver's license doesn't match up with the driver's face. He takes a moment to settle in, and as their journey proceeds, Jang kills both the driver and the passenger instantly by piercing the flesh multiple times with the knife until the car crashes. Later, Jang discovers the body of the original driver in the trunk, and he laughs hysterically and amusingly calls the killers crazy bastards. In order to heal the bruises, Jang goes for a local clinic in a yellow soccer jersey. In the meantime, Agent Sue follows him with the GPS tracker to the clinic. Jang couldn't control his sick mind even for a minute and lures the nurse to a side room. Jang begins to harass her. She begs for mercy, but the animal proceeds to sexually assault her. In the meantime, the door opens and Agent Sue comes from behind. He smacks the fire extinguisher into his face. Jang shouts, "Who the fuck are you?" Sue beats the shit out of him again and asks the nurse to stay here in order to treat him. Furthermore, Agent Sue mercilessly slits his ankle's tendon and with a scalpel admonishes Jang by stating that it's just the beginning, your nightmare's only getting worse. We then see the wounded Jang dropping out of a car, but nevertheless moving on. He drives down the dark highway while Agent Sue follows him. Jang ditches his car and surprisingly manages to hitch a ride in a military vehicle. The next scene introduces us to two new characters, Jang's friend Tae-ju, who is a cracking cannibal with vicious beastly dogs as pets. Jang manages to arrive at his place while we see Agent Sue talking to the chief and his sister, who shares her insecurities with him, urging him to stop his hunt. But Agent Sue refuses to accept her request and continues the pursuit. On the other hand, Jang, his friend, and his friend's girlfriend chat casually at a dinner table, while savoring the flesh of humans. Jang states that his friend has gone crazy and he gets up to have some whiskey. In the interim, Tae-ju comments that his hunter is some relative of the girl he killed and laughs that he's enjoying the hunt. Thanks to the GPS tracker, Agent Sue listens to the whole conversation outside. Meanwhile, Tae-ju suggests Jang get some sleep as he prepares his next meal. We now see Jang is smoking while laying on the bed and tries to remember who that person was. He recalls a ring and starts to recollect his memories and finally remember who the victim was and why this person is beating him ruthlessly. On the other hand, Tae-ju can be seen dragging a young girl which he kidnapped. In order to kill her, he drags the chains and slogs the girl into the kitchen. As the barbarian threatens the innocent girl, Sue arrives at the scene and confronts Tae-ju and brutally breaks his bones. As they are fighting, Jang hears the commotion and arms himself with a shotgun and starts shooting towards Agent Kim. Sue dodges the shots and escapes the room. Jang frees his friend while Agent Sue manages to find a metal pipe. As he keeps a lookout, he fights with Tae-ju's girlfriend and knocks her down. The scene ends with an absolute thriller fight where Agent Sue fights against Tae-ju and later smashes the pipe into Jang's head and makes him unconscious. In the later scene, the officer talks with the intelligence chief, demanding him to make Agent Sue stop the hunt. Meanwhile, the criminals are shifted to the hospital for treatment. Agent Sue also goes to the hospital as he too is injured. We then see that Jang was lying on a hospital bed listening to the conversation of Agent Kim and his fellow agent. The agent asks Sue if the GPS is working fine. As of this moment, Jang realizes that Agent Sue is able to track him through the GPS. The next scene begins in a dark tunnel where Jang wakes up. He now knows that Agent Kim can listen to him, so he tries to communicate with him. Jang starts playing with Sue's head and telling him that his wife was pregnant and begged him for her life, and how he chopped her into pieces. Jang manages to get rid of the tracker and put it inside another man. Agent Sue arrives at the location and finds out that Jang has finally escaped. Meanwhile, at the hospital, out of the blue, police receive a call from Jang saying he is willing to surrender. In the meantime, Agent Sue heads out to the hospital to investigate Tae-ju in order to locate Jang's possible whereabouts and what he's planning to do next. Tae-ju mockingly reveals that Jang is planning to kill the chief, his fiance's father, and remaining daughter, and afterwards plans to turn himself in. Tae-ju jests about how this woman took some pleasure as well. It enrages Sue and he angrily begins to tear Jae-too's mouth and breaks his jaw. We can see in the next scene that the police cars are rushing towards the chief's house, but it is too late as Jang reaches the place first. He brutally hits the chief with the dumbbell and kills his other daughter as well. In the meantime, Agent Sue reaches the house where the police are already present. The head officer scolds Agent Sue for his incompetency. He limps inside the house to find the chief severely injured. Suddenly, Jang calls Agent Sue and asks him, "Who do you think really won, you or me?" As Agent Sue drives ferociously through the traffic, Jang stands on the busy intersection in an attempt to bring himself in. However, desperate Agent Sue comes to the scene in a car, manages to grab Jang, and drags him off to the same warehouse where he killed Agent Sue's fiancée. In the final moments of the movie, it can be seen that Agent Sue ties Jang underneath his own guillotine, and there's an intense exchange of words between them. Jang states that he's at peace by knowing he took everything away from Kim by killing all of his beloved ones, and there's no amount of pain that can relate to his pain. Sue then starts torturing Jang by popping up the sharp screw into his mouth through his cheeks. Helplessly, Jang starts to cry and plead for his death. After some senseless words from Jang, Agent Sue silently walks out of the warehouse. In the next scene, we can see that the guillotine's been tied up with the door. Jang's parents and son come to the warehouse where Jang begs them not to open the door. Unintentionally, Jang's own parents open the door and the guillotine falls down, decapitating his head, and it rolls in front of his son and parents. The movie then comes to an end as Agent Sue walks away from the house, shattered from the inside, in absolute pain and agony. He breaks down into tears as the film cuts to black. Thanks for watching, guys.